Hello and welcome to the Box Office Buddies podcast. I'm Dan. I'm joined by Jonathan
I'm back. Glad to be back.
and Jesse.
So yeah, my name is Justin. They call me on the server Jussie. I've been following box office for I think at this point over 10 years now, kind of on and off since 2015. Like I feel like a lot of people did with a lot of historic ones that year. I started following daily with the Endgame run, and really I've just been obsessed with box office ever since. And yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Project Hail Mary is our number 10 at 2.7 million for the 3 day, down 33%. The 4 day is looking at 3.46 million. Domestically, 340.35. International, 335.4. And the worldwide is at 675.75. On a $200 million budget, this is very, very good.
Yes, we've talked about PHM every week, of course. I mean, it's a great turnout.
I mean, I'll say I know just because I haven't had a chance to say my thoughts on it yet. I read the book for the first time earlier this year, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a big breakout film. And I think I was one of the more positive ones on the server. I think I predicted like 570-ish million, but even this exceeded my expectations, right? And I think it just goes to show just how much of a crowd pleasing good film this is. It's one of the films I've rewatched the most in theaters. It's not perfect. It's not the best film ever, even though it's my personal favorite of the year. It's not the best film ever, but it's just such a engaging, thrilling, emotional, comedic time that it just makes sense that it's doing as well as it does, and it's going to be sad to see it eventually go.
It's probably its last weekend in the top 10, if I were to guess. All right, also a mainstay on this podcast that's probably going to be out next week, the Super Mario Galaxy movie. It had a 29% drop with a domestic 3 day weekend of 3.21 million. The 4 day is estimated to be 4.1 million, so that brings the domestic total to over 424 million. International, it's got over 555 million, bringing the worldwide total to 980.39 billion on a $100 million budget. It's past Despicable Me 4 that made around 972 million worldwide.
With this film as well, it passed a Minecraft movie this weekend.
The better film lost.
The better.
At least it's good for the box office.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a lot of these stories right now. Like, even if a lot of these are not my favorite films necessarily, it's just good for the box office. I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we get down the list, just how I think overall healthy the box office has been for this year. I know some people might look at 980 million, probably going to cross a billion, as a disappointment compared to the first one. But like, I think it's important just to still put it in context. This is a $100 million film, and it's going to make 10 times that. Now, I'm sure marketing was like super expensive as well, but like, I don't think Nintendo or Illumination are gonna like be upset with this. Now, if it continues to go down, that's a whole other story. But I think they're very satisfied with this. Number 8 was a new opening this week. I Love Boosters. It opened to 3.72 million for the 3 day and 4.57 million for the 4 day on a $20 million budget. Now, I did see it does not have any international numbers. It did not get an international release. This week was only American.
I think it's staggered, yeah.
I mean, I guess to start off here, I know there was a tweet or a message online about how, for the director, saying, hey, if you want to support independent cinema, you need to go see a film and its opening weekend. So do we think 3.72 million is a high enough number with hopefully with the legs, it can reach the profitability, or do we think it's not where it should be?
I'm thinking probably not. This is not surprising to me in any way as a fan of this director because it's just. I'll get into it a little later, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised they put this out in like 1,700 theaters. I was actually even more shocked when I saw the $20 million budget because I was just like, you gave this man $20 million? Do you know what he's gonna make? Like, do you know what he's gonna make? Like, for a year of a lot of surprise successes, this one's a little disappointing. I would have hoped for more. I would want him to be able to make a $40 million movie. It is what it is. It's very niche. It's very strange. I think, off-putting to most of the general audience. So
So number 7 is Mortal Kombat 2, which did 6.07 million, down 55% for the 3-day. The 4-day was 7.72 million. Domestically, it is now at 74.32 million. International, 45.2, and the worldwide is up to 119.52 million on a $80 million budget. This film is very close to becoming the highest grossing Mortal Kombat movie overall, which is good, but it is still it's not close to doubling its budget yet.
I think looking at it, I get like if I were making a first entry in this franchise, I would say 80 million for an IP like Mortal Kombat would make sense. But we have Mortal Kombat 1 that came out in 2021 with COVID and all that. And I believe it made somewhere in the 80 million worldwide range off of a $50 million budget. And I could see because it was HBO Max day and date, and it was during the early days, or not early days of COVID, but the early days of the 2021 box office. And I could see like, okay, let's do another one. Let's try again, because I think it also got really high streaming numbers as well. But to increase it to an $80 million budget this time around, I mean, I think it's showing that the audience isn't really as there as one would think. It's a very popular game within a very specific niche. And unfortunately, I don't think it's reached outside of that niche audience there.
at number 6, we have the spooky, scary passenger with a 3-day opening of 8.7 million, a 4-day 10 million, and the international opening was 4.8 million, bringing its total to 15.3 million worldwide on a $15 million budget.
It's pretty decent. It's better than I thought it would open, to be fair. I'm really surprised because it's kind of ass.
I don't think people really like it that much. Yeah.
Looking at it, it kind of had a very inconvenient spot, and I'm not sure if it's all its fault because, like, I can see like, all right, you want to do counter program against the Mandalorian Grogu, but I feel like you should have been able to at least predict, hey, the Backrooms. Now, granted, we don't know how it's going to do next week, but the Backrooms was going to be something of a more bigger. I think you even just look at the outside, and then we had the unexpected hit of Obsession, which we'll also talk about later, being much bigger than was originally expected. So now you got this crappy little horror film in these middle of these two almost maybe not a zeitgeist films, but two other horror films that are just dominating the conversation. And that's why, frankly, I'm surprised it opened up to as much as it did. Also against a major film. So I'd give it props to that. Also, props to Paramount, $15 million budget. That's reasonable. I think it will break even, if not theatrically, eventually in the long run. So I mean, to them for doing that, I guess.
This film had just a horrible marketing campaign, I feel like, because they originally dropped the teaser to get people talking in front of Primate, and they kept it only in theater. Never put that online. They did not release an actual trailer until mid-April, and still, half of that trailer is basically the teaser of just from what sounds like is the opening of the movie. And then just nothing. Like, absolute radio. What'd you think was going to happen?
But they still got $8.7 million off of a nothing budget. So, like, props to them. That's why I'm, like, giving them props for, advertising what they could, and it still did this. I'm like, what? Good job.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed they somehow got to that level with just the most muted marketing campaign.
Number 5 is The Sheep Detectives. 9.2 million domestically, a 4% drop for the 3-day weekend, and then 12.84 million for the 4-day weekend. The current domestic total is 47.37 domestic and 38.8 international. We are at $86.17 million worldwide, a $75 million budget.
I will say I don't think it's going to lose as much money as originally thought, because domestically it could maybe make a run for like 70, maybe like 80 million, maybe.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think that's crazy to say. Like, I'm not going to go out here and be like, oh, it's going to make 100 million domestic. But I would honestly argue, I mean, if it's only dropping, it's doing 9.2 million this weekend, and it's at 47 million now. There's no other kids' films till Toy Story 5, and that's in a month from now. I'm not going to say it's going to keep on doing 4% drops. I think we could get to 70 million or even 80 million domestic.
I think its closest competition, honestly, is this weekend with The Breadwinner.
The one time we'll talk about the breadwinner actually being competition for something.
The Nate rate could be a little too powerful for it.
Moving on to number 4, we have The Devil Wears Prada 2 at 12.7 million, down 29% for the 3-day, at 16.5 million for the 4-day, and it has passed the double century mark, 200.03 million domestic, 408 million international. That international total doesn't stop surprising me. 608.03 million for the worldwide haul so far, for a $100 million budget comedy movie.
They're very close to 480 international. I'm just saying.
I wonder if I get to half your domestic prediction.
Your digital footprint, everyone.
I mean, I guess just looking at this film, I mean, this is just a great success for Disney. I mean, I'll be honest, I might have underestimated this film originally when it was announced. Because I was originally like, not to say like I underestimate maybe these more female oriented films, but like I looked at Freakier Friday. I was very positive of Freakier Friday, and that didn't end up the way I expected Freakier Friday to do. So I then lowered my prediction. Because, Wave 1, 2000's legacy comedy sequel did lower than I expected. Maybe the next one will. But then, of course, the trailer blew up. Everything did big. And even then, like 600 million or 608 million, still making good money. Who knows? It should get to 650, I'd imagine.
It's also past Mamma Mia as well, which did 580. And I've always said I believed it could do Mamma Mia numbers.
Number 3, we have Michael at 20.7 million. That's a 21% drop. That's a 21% drop for the 3-day. And then for the 4-day, we'll have 26.9 mil, making the domestic total 321.11 million. The international is 468.14 million. Worldwide, this is looking at $789.25 million worldwide on a $155 million budget.
It's crazy because I had my concerns after I saw that cinema score of what was it, A minus, I think, which is, or was it B plus? Yeah, it was lower than I expected, right? I'm like, okay, maybe audiences aren't going to turn up to it as much, but it's turning out to be very much a leggy hit, much like Bohemian Rhapsody was. And I'm pretty sure, I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure domestically it was close to 4 times. I mean, it's not going to get hit 4 times, I don't think. But I mean, it's going to get close to it. And I think that's just very impressive. When I first saw the movies coming out, I thought it would do under Bohemian Rhapsody, not by much, but just because we're in a post COVID environment, I think that would hurt things a little bit. But it looks like, or at least I'm personally predicting, that it should pass that up. I mean, yeah, should pass it up. And then who knows, maybe it gets to Oppenheimer, gets to that billion. It all depends on the holds for the next few weeks. So number 2 is going to be Obsession. It has earned 23.9 million for the 3-day weekend, which, mind you, is a 39% increase, not decrease, increase. I'm putting the emphasis there because, oh my goodness, I never thought we would see something like that. Now I want to get through the rest of the numbers here first, but like 39% increase. For the other numbers there, 30.35 million for the 4-day. We have now current total of 60.73 million domestic, 21.21 million internationally, for a worldwide total of 81.94 million worldwide, and a $750,000 budget. Although it's also important to remember that the film was acquired for $15 million, but still easily profitable at this point, and who knows how profitable it's going to end up being.
In terms of non-December holds from weekend 1 to weekend 2, this is the best of all time for a film that was in 2,500 cinemas or more for both weekends. So second is actually 2023 Sound of Freedom, which was 38.6%, but that also opened on a Tuesday.
How do you even talk about it? Because, like, I think this is probably the most shocking story that has existed since we started the podcast. It's probably one of the most shocking stories we've had this decade in terms of box office. It's unprecedented territory. How do you predict the future? I was explaining this a little bit earlier, but like before the podcast, but I was mentioning, like, I was explaining to somebody who doesn't follow the box office how big of a deal this was. I was like, okay, what's the big deal? It increases. Don't other movies make more money? Like, but you don't get it, right? It's just so impressive and unprecedented. It's going to make it very hard to predict what these next future weeks are going to be doing, especially with big film next week with Backrooms. And it's just, I mean, just wow. Just wow. That's what I have to say. Just wow.
Honestly, I think this is a lock to be Focus Features' highest grossing film. I think that's pretty much a lock because the highest is 2019's Downton Abbey at a little over 194 worldwide. It can do that. It can do that unquestionably.
I'm pretty sure it's staggered international as well. So it's at 21.21 million international. It could easily get to like 65, 75 international, I think, which would push, like, if it gets to 131, 140, that would be 205 to 215.
Number one, we have the return of the greatest franchise in all of cinema, the Mandalorian Grogu, opening to 81 million 3-day, 100 million on the dot 4-day. Interesting. We have 63 million international, or 163 million worldwide, but worldwide total, almost at the 166 million budget. For some other stats for you, it is the 12th biggest Memorial Day 4-day opening. It's very similar numbers presented as Solo, a Star Wars story, which opened on Memorial Day weekend back in 2018. It did 84.42 million 3 days with 103.02 million for the 4 days. So just right under that.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's under 100 million for the 4-day.
They're clearly trying to be hopeful for it.
And that worked for the 3-day because it was 1 million under. I mean, the best thing that I can say about this opening is it is more than I expected last week. I put it at 66.6 million for the 3-day, so this is better than that. It is also a much lower budget than Solo, so it's not as bad for it to not open as well. Given those two things that are good for this, one very bad thing, this is 7 years after the last Star Wars movie. That I don't think this is a very good opening for a 7 years theatrical break.
I don't know. I don't really get the thought process. I know Mandalorian was very popular, like for at least the first 2 seasons. But the problem is, like, think about how far removed we are from the first 2 seasons. Think about how far removed we are from season 3. Like,
honestly, I might have fast-tracked Starfighter to have this out this year rather than this.
Or just don't even do a movie this year. Okay. So, like, sorry, not to cut off, but like, my thoughts with this. I remember they announced this film. Well, first of all, they've announced so many Star Wars films, right? And then in 2023, they did Star Wars Celebration. Like, these are the next 3 films. We got James Mangold. He's doing a Dawn of the Jedi movie. We have our Rey movie. Rey is back. Here, everybody. We got Daisy Ridley on stage. Oh my goodness, why am I forgetting the other movie? Oh, the Heir to the Empire movie. Dave Filoni, everybody's favorite person, Dave Filoni, is directing his first movie to conclude the Mandoverse. These are our next 3 films. Cheer, everybody. And then a year later, they're like, yeah, we got Mandalorian Grogu. I'm like, oh, and it's such a weird choice. And I'll say this, right? Previously mentioned, I might like Star Wars, maybe a lot of it. But it's always such a strange choice. Like, is this what you bring it back to theaters? Like, if people are like, yeah, Mandalorian's big. People love Grogu. The Grogu merchandise go everywhere. It's just like Stitch. I'm like, it is not Stitch. Grogu is not Stitch. It's a strange choice to do. And what I do think is respectable about this is the budget. All right. I think the future of Star Wars, you can't rely on $250 million, $300 million budgets. I think for most of our films, you are going to have to do something lower. And I think this is a smart choice. And maybe it's going to be a sign of what we can see in the future with the budgeting of this franchise. Because just to be honest, it's not that top dog anymore. Now, maybe Starfighter will change that. But I don't think anybody gets super hyped for Star Wars anymore. In a way that makes me sad. But like, I'm just being real here.
Starfighter's definitely going to be the one to watch in terms of how it plays with people. I think that's going to be the greater indication of like how people are feeling about Star Wars right now. Because this is just, the buzz is like not, I mean, it's fine enough. Like, I think audiences mostly like it. I think the general consensus is that it's just like, it's just kind of cute at best. Which that's really not what you need for your first movie in 7 years.
Needed to go back with a bang. And it seems like to me, what was it? Because there was an interview with Favreau where they're like, yeah, we're working on season 4. But they're like, hey, we need a movie for this year. And I was surprised he outright said, I forgot where exactly that interview was. But like, yeah, we need a movie. Can you do this as a movie? Like, oh, let's see. Let's work it. Like, yeah, we got a good idea for a movie. I'm like, was it a great idea for a movie? I'm not sure. But I mean, it feels a movie out of necessity as opposed to a movie out of, we have a great idea. Let's put this out here.
I don't know who a lot of these characters are. And honestly, the movie didn't really make me care that much for most of them.
I think the Zeb. I've been telling multiple people about this, but the Zeb introduction is so nonchalant, where it's like it's saying like, you know who Zeb is. You know who this guy is. He's never appeared in a movie before. You know who he is. I don't know who fucking Zeb is. I've never seen Rebels. Like,
Listen, if you watch, you don't understand. If you watch the animated kids show that came out over a decade ago of 4 seasons, you would understand how important and integral Zeb is to the Ghost crew with Ezra, with Hera, with Kanan, with all of them, right? It's such an important crew and dynamic to the galaxy. You just don't even get it. It is weird how much he's in the marketing. I'll say that. Like how much he is in the film. And they don't introduce him. He's just a dude. I like just dudes in there, but like I'm surprised with how prominent he was. But that gets more to the review of it all. I mean, I like Zeb. I can't imagine anybody like going into the movie and be like, I'm now Zeb's biggest fan.
I'm now his biggest hate. No, I don't have a problem with Zeb. He seems fine. I was just like, who the fuck is this? um,
It's as if they made Jurassic World movie and they have one of the characters from like Camp Cretaceous in there or something.
yes. Yes.
Let's just jump right into the Mandalorian and Grogu in terms of your review, Justin.
The positives first. All right. I'm kind of give some context. Big Star Wars fan, arguably the biggest of the server. Was never really that hyped for the movie. I was never even that big of like I like Mandalorian, but it's not my favorite part of Star Wars, right? So I was, I'm optimistic, and I know Jon Favreau's film output, I would argue, is mostly good. So I'm like, okay, maybe this could be an improvement off of season 3. Just to show you my thoughts going into there. Focusing on the positives, the score, it's one of the few things I'd actually argue, or maybe the only thing I'd actually argue is actually great and fantastic. Love what Gore said, really wonderful score. I don't think anybody can deny that. I know he already has another score this year that's going to be hotly anticipated with the Odyssey. I'm not sure how the rules work at the Oscar with 2 directors or with the same composer being nominated twice. But I would love to see that happen. I'm assuming the Odyssey score is going to be great. This is my personal favorite score of the year. I absolutely adored the score. I've been listening to on Spotify on repeat, specifically Rada's theme, which is crazy as a theme. But Rada's theme music is absolutely fantastic. It's my favorite piece I've heard in movies this year. Like the Shikari's theme, both are great, absolutely fantastic. And honestly, even if you do not care about the Mandalorian or Star Wars, just give those themes a listen. I mean, Ludwig always cooks, so there's that. Second positive thing I'd like to mention is that the Grogu and the Inzelians are cute, which if it tells you anything, the fact of the second thing I mentioned is that, the creatures are cute, funny. That might be an issue there. I know it's cheap humor. I can't help but be charmed by them. The Inzelians, in case you don't know what those are like the little Babu Frick creatures, the little creatures you've been seeing in the, Inzelians is their species name. They're all cute. They're funny. And I do think actually the stop motion work, and actually leading to my third point, the stop motion work, the puppet creature design is actually really well done, I think. I read somewhere that Favreau's favorite Star Wars film was Return of the Jedi. And the focus on the practical creature design, I'll say, really reminded me of Jabba's palace at the beginning of that film. There's a lot of stop motion that was done with it that I thought was really cool. Well done. It's a very visually creative film, at least maybe not in terms of the story, but in terms of the creature design, in terms of the effects and all that stuff. Even if they don't look the best, I think it's very unique. I think in that regard. So I want to give that its praise. And I'll say solid action scenes. I think really impressed me that much, but I was entertained. Now for the negatives. Plot is simplistic and character arcs are non-existent. I do not need a tragic, deep story. I do not, because some people are like, I need this big world building. I need all this to set up the First Order or whatever. I did not care about that. I want a character to grow, to learn something. This has as much character arc as the Super Mario Galaxy movie. What are we doing here? Season 1 and Season 2 of Mandalorian, character arcs. The Mando character had character arc. There had to be something you could have done with this. And it's like I said, what's the point of this movie? Star Wars doesn't need to be large scale. I firmly believe that. Some people do. I don't think so. It doesn't need to be some huge adventure. But what is the point of this story here that we're telling? I'll also say CGI is not best in some parts, but I forgive it for being significantly cheaper than other Star Wars films. It doesn't look the greatest. I feel like even stuff like that I don't like The Rise of Skywalker, in parts, it does look like a very good looking film, a very good spectacle. It feels like a spectacle. This is just very low key, and some of the CGI, like I said, is not as good. And I will say some people complain about the pacing. While I'm not as bothered by the pacing as some people were, there was one part near the end of the film, or not near the end of the film, what I thought was going to be the end of the film, where it goes to a screeching halt in a way that I've never seen in any other film. or at least in a long time. And it just took me out of the movie. Like, okay, we're almost done here. And then there's like a 15-minute sequence, which if you see the film, you know what I'm talking about near the end of the film. That just completely slows it down. I see what they're going for, but it wasn't effective and it just dragged out the movie. And there's more I could go into it there, but I want to see. I'm not sure actually. Did either of you two see the movie here? I mean, I guess I could just add on just a little bit more. Again, I don't think it's a bad film. And I gave this film a 7 out of 10, but I think this is me being super generous to Star Wars because I want to love it so badly. But the fact I'm going out of this film, I'm like, Matt, I should be the person who's coming in with their Grogu plushie, with their little lightsaber, and be like, yeah, I love this film, 10 out of 10. It's probably 6 out of 10, maybe even a 5 out of 10. I really wanted to like this film. It's just, what is the point? What is the growth? What do I get out of this? I probably am not interested in rewatching this again. I'm saying this as somebody who's rewatched each Star Wars film at least 4 or 5 times. Some of the originals like 8, 9, 10, 11 times.
Yeah, so I've seen the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian. I love the first season. First season's amazing. Second season's really good too. Never got around to season 3. I was going to watch season 3 before I saw this, but I went to go see the new Guy Ritchie movie and they canceled my showtime. So I had to go see something else at the same time. Mandalorian Grogu was like 10 minutes later, so I was like, okay, sure. I did not really like this movie at all. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I feel like anybody who has the energy to hate this, I'd be very surprised. It's just such a nothing burger to me. Like it just felt so pointless. Like I really don't see what this adds to just Star Wars as a whole. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to like, be this major earth-shadowing lore update. It doesn't have to be. I just really didn't see the point of any of it. It's like even as like a show, like if this was season 4, I think I'd be disappointed. The shows felt grander in scale than this, which is kind of insane to say. I thought both season 1 and especially season 2 felt grander in scale.
Going into season 3, the show definitely feels a lot more disjointed. And I was hoping this was going to be a movie that reminds me more of season 1 and season 2, but it definitely feels more like the season 3 tone where it's like, what are we doing here? What's the point? And even then, season 3 does end with a big, impactful for the Star Wars galaxy moment, but most of the seasons, them just wandering around. That's what this movie is. And again, it doesn't need to be that. It just needed, I want growth. I want a character to learn a lesson. Is that too much to ask?
Jonathan, do you want to go through your movie this week?
I'm very excited to talk about this one because this was actually my most anticipated movie of the year. And my reason for this is because of the director's last film. Speaking of a long gap, this director's last film was 8 years ago. 2018's Sorry to Bother You. So this is directed by Boots Riley. It is one of my favorite films of the 2010s. If you have not seen it, just go ahead and do it. Try to go in as blind as you can because it is one of the most insane films I think maybe ever made. The synopsis is like maybe 10% of what the movie's about. What the movie is largely about just completely like they just turn it over completely in like the third act. It becomes something entirely different, unlike anything I think anybody has ever seen. And I would be highly doubtful if anybody's seen a movie like that. So he made a new film this year, finally. I Love Boosters. I don't know why they gave him $20 million, but it was money well spent because he took the $20 million and he fucking ran with it. This movie, as many times as I've seen Sorry to Bother You, I thought that could kind of prepare me for this movie's vibe. Not really. I think that one is still a better film, but this one is, I don't know, there's a level of like unbridled creativity that I just admire about this film so much. Every impulse is just taken and he just runs with it. It could be very obnoxious for some people. I acknowledge that. But for me, I was just like bewildered at what I was watching. Okay, so the one line synopsis for this film, and of course the movie becomes something completely different, much like Sorry to Bother You. I love boosters. Boosters are people who steal clothes from department stores and then they sell them at a drastically discounted price. All right. That's our main characters. Kiki Palmer, Naomi Aki, Taylor Page. They start getting the attention of a fashion mogul played by Demi Moore. And that's probably where I should stop with plot details because this film kind of just changes genres. It's been compared to a certain Christopher Nolan film that I'm not going to mention. It's not the most well-loved Christopher Nolan film, but I kind of see the comparison. I really do, just because of how I could see somebody getting lost with this movie. I was admittingly a little lost at parts of it, but I just kind of went with it. I was like, you know what? Sure. And I think the reason I'm able to do that is because of just how absurd it is. It is so funny. This is like this maybe the second hardest I've laughed in a movie this year. Still my favorite movie of the year is Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. That film I still think is a little funnier, but this one was the runner up. I was howling with laughter in some just random bits that they would throw at the screen like every minute there'd be something goofy, some like insane visual gag, some great line, great performances. The performances in this movie are just off the chain. This is an amazing cast. Let me just give you a brief speed through of who's in this movie. So I mentioned Kiki Palmer, Naomi Aki, Taylor Page, Demi Moore. Well, there's also Poppy Lou, Will Poulter, Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle has a very goofy cameo, kind of. He's kind of billed on the poster. It's more of an extended cameo. But the standout is easily Lakeith Stanfield, who was actually, he played the main character of Sorry to Bother You. So I expected he would do something very interesting, and he is fucking hysterical in this. Just his whole role, I can't even say. It's just the problem is it's hard to talk about this movie. It's kind of hard to recommend as well because there are so many scenes that I could see people being very like I could see it being very off-putting to some people. Yeah, I recommend it though. I like just if you're in the mood for something just absolutely balls to the walls unhinged, just no questions asked, go see this movie because there is nothing like it. I don't think it's even comparable to Sorry to Bother You. Yeah, this just wonderful cast, a beautiful like aesthetic to it. It's one of the most colorful films I've seen in a hot minute. But yeah, this is my second favorite film of the year. It's kind of hard to say because this year has had so many heavy hitters. I wasn't here for when Obsession came out last weekend, but I did see Obsession. That's a contender for my top five. Well, I have it at number 4 right now, but I could see it moving to 3. I could see it moving to 2. I have Project Hail Mary at 3 right now, and then this at number 2. Go watch it while it's still here. Just be prepared. You're going to be shocked. You might be a little confused. I think you will never forget this movie. Honestly, I really want to watch it again. I hope to sometime soon.
My movie this week is I don't know how to say the director's name. Andre Uverdal. It's got like one of those Norwegian O's with the strike through it. So the movie that I've seen from him before is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I know that people do like it. I wasn't a big fan of it, to be honest. He also did The Last Voyage of the Demeter, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Troll Hunter is another one he's quite known for as well. Apparently he's doing a Bendy and the Ink Machine movie as well. But yeah, I saw Passenger, which is if you've seen a trailer for it in the cinema, that is the opening like 5 minutes basically. Opening 10 minutes, I think actually. I think the tagline 130 million people take road trips every year. 15,400 of them are never seen again. It's basically about this young couple who decide to move out of their Brooklyn apartment and go on the road in a van. Now, while they are out in the van, they witness a car crash, and they find 3 scratch marks on the car, and they later see that their van has those same 3 scratch marks. This is very early in the movie. I think this movie is trying its very hardest to be scary. It is a very try hard horror movie. They really want you to be scared when the jump scares happen, but if you like know when they're gonna happen, and most of the time with horror you know when the jump scare is gonna happen. If you know when it's gonna happen, the actual scare isn't very effective. And I will say like the entity that they have is like scary looking enough. Like it looks off, it looks strange. It does just look like a human, to be fair. Just like, it's a demon. But yeah, so it's trying very hard. There's like the typical like, long pause and then there's a bang and then there's a jump scare. But I think it fails. It fails to be scary and it fails to not be boring as well. There's a chance that I'm like unfairly comparing this to Obsession, which is very fucking amazing. Yeah, like the actors are all doing fine. They're not doing any. There's no bad performances or anything. It's just boring to me. Apparently, Joseph Lopez, who is the passenger himself, is also in the new Insidious movie later this year as well. Yeah, we'll see him later this year. I will say there was something that happened with Melissa Leo, who plays a character called Diane. What happens to her? I was a bit surprised. Like it was a bit. I'm trying to say this without spoiling it, but yeah, I don't think anybody actually cares about spoilers for Passenger, but I won't spoil it. Unlike last year when last week when I spoiled Charlie the Wonder Dog, I won't be spoiling. But yeah, something happens to her character when she's in a van, near the like third act type. It's very close to the end. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't expect that at all. I felt like it was a little too late for it to do something interesting at that point. The mystery itself on like who the passenger is, I found it to be like just generic horror stuff. It wasn't really that interesting. I know we've never really. I don't think I've seen a movie that mentions like Saint Christopher or stuff like that. But I gave it a one star rating.
But you don't recommend it.
I do not recommend seeing it. Like I gave it a worse rating than Charlie the Wonder Dog. I gave Charlie the Wonder Dog 1.5, and I guess I was being a little more lenient with Charlie the Wonder Dog because it's a kids movie, but also like I like watching shitty horror sometimes. Like the Bye Bye Man is very funny to watch. This has none of the funny, unintentionally funny parts of the Bye Bye Man. But yeah, those were our three movies this week. Moving on to our predictions. So I'll give mine first, and then I will top five this week. At number five, I have The Devil Wears Prada 2 at 8.26 down 35%. Four, I have Michael, 14.49 million, down 30%. Number three, I have Obsession at 16.13 million, down 32.5%. Number two, I have The Mandalorian and Grogu at 30.38 million, down 62.5%. And then I have number one, Backrooms at 60 million. I've seen a lot of sold out cinemas for Backrooms, so I'm heavily betting on this. Jonathan, what do you have for your top five?
All right. So Devil Wears Prada, I'm going a little bit of a steeper drop. I'm thinking more of the lower, well, not really actually. It's kind of lower 8 million range. I just feel like, it definitely had a pretty good hold because of Memorial Day, but I think this is still a good hold. I really do. I mean, it is still a good hold. It's just I feel like it is starting to peter out a little faster than, I was initially expecting it would. Michael is still holding phenomenally, so I'm going to put it at 15 million. Here's my big gamble of the bunch. I'm thinking Obsession is going to hold and have a 18 million third weekend, which would be higher than the opening. Still, I hope it does that because that would be incredible. Mandalorian, gonna kind of the same range as you, 30 million. And Backrooms, seeing both of what you put down for Backrooms, I think I'm just gonna go a little more, slightly more pessimistic on this one. And this is still really good. This is still very, very good. I'm going 51 million. I just want to I just don't want to get too carried away. I could see it, turning out way higher, but we'll see.
And Justin, what do you have?
All right, so my ranking is actually in the same order, but I want to give a preference of two things to look out for. Sheep Detectives did only drop in the single digits in terms of percentage this week, so I think there's a chance it might sneak in there. And then also we do have that new wide release with Breadwinner, which you never know. I don't think it's going to make the top 5, but you never know. I think it is close enough that to consider as a possibility. I felt like mentioning it because, we all have the same order for everything else. Going to the top 5. Devil Wears Prada 2, 8.9 million. Michael, 16.1 million at number 4. Obsession, I do think it's going to increase. And I think it just keeps on defying the odds. Now, this might be me finally getting too optimistic, and maybe it's not going to go that high because at some point it has to disappoint somewhere along the way. I think it's still going to do 19.1 million, which I believe is still like a million above its opening weekend. I don't recall what the exact number was, but like it's still going to be above it.
That would be 1.9 million.
1.9 million. So, okay, almost 2 million then. Yeah. So I think it's just going to keep on holding. The Mandalorian Grogu, I admit this is going to be more of a bold prediction. Maybe this is just cope. I have it at 39.1 million. Playing a little bit more like a family film, I feel like that analogy probably isn't going to work out in the end. This is just me being optimistic. I guess if I were to do more realistic, I don't think it's going to be quite as low as a 30 million or, 30.38 million. I think maybe like 34, 35 million. 39 million is just my hope prediction there. And then Backrooms, 57.5 million is where I have it right now. I think it is the clear number 1 for this week. Now, I do agree with what Jonathan said, where maybe it could, just to set the expectations in check, it could be 51 million. And honestly, I could see it maybe in the high 40 million range. Still a great success for A24, regardless of where it ends up. But I think there's just that unknown of Obsession, whereas I'm predicting Obsession will be higher and take a little bit more of that chunk from Backrooms, as opposed to if Obsession didn't exist. So number 1 is Backrooms at 57.5 million.
Yeah, good numbers all around, I would say. But yeah, so those are our predictions for next weekend. And that is our show for this week. Thank you everyone for listening. I've been Dan. I've been joined by Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
And Justin.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Goodbye.
Yeah.